Cheers. Thank you. Nice one. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Cool. I feel like Oprah or something up here, I think, with that handover. Cool. Right, so really excited to be here tonight because I love building communities. You'll hear a little bit more about myself and obviously background in a minute. I love community design and sharing hopefully top tips. So again, I'm hoping that you guys all get a lot from this tonight as well. And ultimately, I read this kind of like article recently and it said that most people zone out after a few minutes of listening to any talk. So if tonight's talk is a little bit kind of Tarantino or Christopher Nolan in terms of non-linear dialogue, then obviously I apologize now, but I'm going to get into the good shit first, and then you can start zoning out after about 5 minutes as well, okay? So hopefully I'm not going to take up too much time, but you'll see hopefully some really actionable tips if you're looking to build a community, recharge your community, take it to the next level. And again, like I said, come and grab me anytime you want to talk about this. So let's just get into some key principles when I'm actually coaching people on building communities about what you should be doing in terms of community design. Like I said, straight into it. If there's only 3 things you take away from today, this is what I would say is very, very, very important stuff. So when you're designing a community, obviously really think about user journey. We all know from building products, from building communities, from building projects, that the user journey is really important in that. But have a really good think about what the user journey is like for the actual member. You know, it's a bit like if you have a map or something like that and you're trying to get somewhere in a destination. Do they know how they enter the community? Do they know what they're supposed to be doing next in the community? Do they know how to go down this road? Do they even know why they're there? So really be thinking a lot about the user journey and how they can evolve to the next stage all the time. Are you signposting it enough? Are you basically making sure that they are very, very aware of what the next stage is? And again, they can follow your narrative as well. Is your community building on your brand and is it unique? I probably look at about 50 communities a week and like some of them are like ridiculously boring. And again, you know, that isn't a slant to them, to be quite honest. Basically, some of the brands and projects are really good, but the community does not match up. Yet some of the brand is like really works really well with the community that's actually on offer as well. So when you're kind of doing your community design, think about how you can put some elements into there that really reflects your brand. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. And this is what I always like to share with everybody is community market fit. Now, obviously we have product market fit where we're all trying to get to in terms of making sure that what you're building actually reflects the person who's going to buy something. But community market fit ultimately means, are you serving something which you want people to actually enjoy and actually be actively taking part in it? So this is why you should be doing things like from day one, when people enter into your community, you know, why are you here in the community? What do you want to achieve from the community? What could we do? What do you like about other communities? Get as much qualitative and quantitative data early on. Survey every single month. When you do an event, find out exactly what people liked and what they didn't like, and always be thinking about evolving. Community market fit is one of the very most important things you can be working on. So who am I? I probably thought I should maybe just wang this in after those tips anyway. So I guess I'm an OG in terms of community building. I've probably been head of community for about 5 companies now. Yelp was a big one, obviously UK and Ireland, also kind of co-managing EU and APAC. I headed up the WeWork Labs Accelerator program, coaching many startups. And I've also done loads of consultancies for firms like Deliveroo, PwC, KPMG on startups and community building as well. But like I said, now I've actually leapt straight into Web3 as well over the last 6 months because it's so community-led that it basically obviously is the future. So here's a few more tips, you know, that you're going to hear from me in a second as well. There are all these cliches about what community is. It's about belonging. It's about feeling part of something. It's kind of getting something you can't get anywhere else. This is all true, but I think that's hopefully fairly obvious in the modern day age. So I don't really need to talk about that. But what I do want to kind of share with you is a few more tips as well about when you're setting out in community design, the main areas that you should get right from day one. So the first thing is onboarding. Obviously, first impressions really do count in everything in life. I think in terms of onboarding, when you're actually bringing people together, make sure, you know, they've had a chance to meet you at an event. Make sure they've had a chance to meet some of your most senior community members. Make sure they've had a video from day one. Make sure they're very clear about what they're going to be doing over the next 3, 6, 12 months in that community. If they have no idea, then they're probably just going to drop off really quickly and have no idea. So like I said, onboarding is super important to get right. Big fan of this second one here as well. And this is about values. So again, we all know what the values are in life. I don't need to really explain to that. But I think it's really important as well that you are really focusing on the values and making sure you're going out there and finding the right people that fit those values, because they will be the gatekeepers and maybe the torchbearers of your community, your product. And again, helping you kind of like just, keep the spirit of the community going. It's not just you running the community. You can get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 ambassadors and helpers spreading the word. But if people don't know the values, then how do you then spread that to more people as well? And the knowledge exchange is really, really important as well. It's like if these 2 guys here were basically part of my community and these 3 guys were here as well as part of my community, if these guys left and these guys just joined, who's actually kind of keeping the values and the knowledge that's in that community going? If you have a leaky bucket and it's all about bringing new members in, but your old ones aren't happy, then you really need to kind of work on kind of like making sure there's a knowledge exchange early on. So what I try to do is make sure that I can get some of my older members connected to my younger members who come in, so as they can have calls with them regularly, so as they can kind of get them on, so they can help them on board as well. So you're not losing all that really valuable knowledge that's in there as well. Like I said, a community is a deep, thriving thing that needs watering. It's a bit like, we can plant all these seeds, but you've got to water it. You don't want a leaky bucket. You want to be bringing new members in all the time, but you want to make sure that your older members actually stay part of this as well. And let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh yeah, of course. Always be innovating. Nothing is worse than a really, really boring community where nothing happens and changes, because people's time is, people are busy. Their time is really, really unique. So you need to always be looking about new ways to, to engage people, to get them really excited about what you do. That is a big thing in terms of how, you grow a community, you innovate, you learn from other places. But again, you don't have to rest on your laurels and just do the same thing all the time. They will either move to a competitor or potentially move in to do something else with their spare time as well. So, like I said before, I'm an OG. I've probably been building communities for about 15 years now. If you catch me for a beer later on, you'll see there's a lot more grey hairs in this beard, actually, from down there than there is hopefully up here. But in the old days, working in products and startups and all this sort of stuff, we just got a reputation as the community builders, as being the guys who blew up the balloons and, hung out and had a few beers. And that probably wasn't too far from the truth, to be honest. But there wasn't an awful lot in there. And we try and get some volunteers together. And this was even in the Yelp days, I'm talking probably, 6, 7, 8 years ago. But really, it was a case of just like putting these things on and just hopefully doing something that brings the brand alive, something a bit more exciting. Then, of course, we used to do a bit of content, but there wasn't much deeper meaning to it, really. It was like, we'll do a blog post, we'll share some photos on social, we'll do this. But again, it's only really scratching the surface, it's kind of making that happen. And learning lots of untrackable things. The tech stack was really weak. It was just bits of software you'd use, nothing talked to each other. There was no CRM or anything like this in terms of community building. It was just a good vibes kind of role if you were building community. But that was then. And kind of like now, we're kind of evolved it a lot more. And I'm really looking forward to showing in a minute how we're going to evolve it even more in the coming months as well. So now when we do events, we obviously have deeper impact. So you can see this with activations. You can see this with obviously making sure that you're building up a repeat community every time. You have a better tech stack to help you manage that. You have a better CRM, and you can actually communicate with your members obviously a lot more as well. You have content with deeper meaning. You can kind of leverage some of the content you're building for your community by gating it. You can kind of use it as a lead generation magnet. You can just do something that means it isn't just surface level. You can basically just start bringing people in. And again, like I said, kind of gate it. So it's going to lead to lead generation for you as well with any kind of event you do. And of course, we're all talking about partnerships, collaborations, involvement, and of course, in terms of Web3 ownership. This is where we're kind of going now. And that is what's really exciting me about obviously Web3 communities as well. Okay. We're in Web3. I think most of you guys are Web3, hopefully, unless you're kind of like just thinking about getting into Web3 as well. But what I really like about where we're at right now, and like when I'm saying about Web3, this is almost like the cutting edge of what's actually happening. I'll share some Web2 brands that are getting into Web3 in a minute and why they're excited about it. But basically, what I like about it is this is basically a solution to all the problems I mentioned before. We have very, very clear signposting. We do things called smart funneling. And again, I'm going to share with you the kind of product that I work on with Zeely, and that basically helps to funnel people towards a solution for them as well. There is a very clear narrative which you've got to build in community building, which again, I'll talk about in a second. And of course, this is what really gets people excited as well. It's those kind of on-chain activities. It's the kind of Discord integration that joins every single thing up. It's about looking at analytics and actually having all of the software joined up and making sense. It's about gamification. It's about kind of making sure that, again, like I said, people know where they're on the user journey, but they're actually getting rewarded for every single thing that they do as well. And I think as well, probably number one thing that really excites me about Web3 community building is this global access. You know, some of my best ambassadors that I work with are in Nigeria, in Indonesia, in Ukraine. It's really exciting now to obviously have these global communities everywhere. And again, it's a meritocracy. Really exciting people with different viewpoints, not just the person who lives down the road. It's people who actually, again, have this wide, you know, like network ability, want to get involved, but we're just giving them access now. Opportunities for all, like I've just said. And like I said, really, really happy that everybody has a voice as well. So I'm conscious of obviously not wanting to turn this into some massive kind of brand thing, but this is Zeely who I work for, and I would check it out if I was you. Zeely.io. Now, we used to be known as Crew 3, if you may have heard that, but we had a rebrand a couple of months ago. Thankfully, nobody set fire to my house, but it was kind of like getting close to that with Discord messages and stuff late into the night when we did the rebrand. But basically, Zeely is a funnel. It's a community building platform. What it does is, like I said, all of the stuff I've just told you about, which is about kind of like, you know, a really difficult user journey to build. How do you reward community members? How do you signpost into what they're to do next? Zeely solves these problems. So look at this. This is Star Atlas, and this is a Web3 game, massive. I've been working with these guys in Cross the Ages, which is another Web3 game over the last few weeks. And these guys have been doing a lot more storytelling in their mission. And what they do is they do quests. So every time a community member comes on, they have one link, and they then go in order, quest to quest to quest to quest. And what that basically means is, once they've done something, they unlock a new area to do that you want them to do. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. When they do a quest, they get XP, they get potentially a Discord role, they get a higher level of achievement in the community, they unlock NFTs. And like I said, they're getting this as they go along in the different quests that they do as well. Now, we use this for our own Planet Zeely one as well. So I had an idea because over that kind of mission, we want to build the world's biggest Web3 community. Whether we get there, I'm not so sure, but you know, you've got to have this kind of grand ambition about what you're trying to achieve. So Planet Zeely to us seemed like a really kind of cool thing to do. It was a case of bringing people together with lore, telling a story, getting people excited, hopefully making it something which people really want to get involved in. And as you can see, we've broken up all these different sections into something that becomes a storyboard. So, you know, like choose a character, crewmates, mission X. I'll explain what that basically means in a minute. But what it does, like I just basically said, was you go through this kind of quest board and you go at 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. You actually reach a point where every single quest might ask you to do some kind of activity, and that gets you deeper involved in the community. As you can see, this stuff might actually look like it's quite superficial, and you're like, why am I part of a space story? But if you actually look into it a bit deeper, you'll see that basically we're just trying to get people to read articles on our blog. We're trying to get people to kind of like, you know, like suggest referring a friend. We're just going to make it exciting for them to be in that community and reflect our brand and our values as well. And as you can see down here, this is called Fuel the Rocket. Now, again, it all comes down to lore. It all comes down to being part of the space mission as well. But if you look further, we're just asking people to follow us on Twitter. We're asking people to join our Discord. We're asking people to subscribe to our newsletter, our YouTube channel. You know, we grew our YouTube channel by 2,000 people in like 3 days or something by basically adding this quest, which is crazy. That organic growth would take ages to do it. So like I've said earlier on, you basically ask what you want your community to do. They will do the quests and follow through in that mission as well for you. And you can put anything up there. It's a blank canvas, but you will see these templates that we've kind of handily put here, just so again, you're not kind of like left out in the middle of nowhere. And for this one, I just want to show at the bottom here, this is how we're using Zeely to leverage an ambassador squad. Somebody applies because they want to be Zeely Silver. They've had to work their way all the way down the board to get here, so you know they're already engaged. Then they click on Silver or Gold. They apply to become an ambassador, fill in the type form. We then get their data, grab a quick call with them. They're really engaged, and then we ask them to be an ambassador and do regular stuff for us as well. So from a board, you've got them to follow all your social channels, do activities for you, engage in Discord, be connected to our Discord bot, and then become ambassadors. And you've already built a really strong community as well that keeps thriving as well. Now, I know I'm kind of short on time, so I'm just basically going to show you a few things because I literally discussed analytics with you guys well before. I didn't have any analytics when I started at community building. This is how deep analytics go now in one kind of platform. So we know exactly how many members have come into our community over the last few days. We know exactly how many quests are being done. We know how many pending claims there are. And again, we can just basically manage it all and just make sure that people are actually doing the things we ask them to do. And again, you'll see from this next slide, what the top quests are doing, how people are performing. If you've put stuff out there, like, is it actually being worthwhile and useful to people as well? I get my community team to review the quests. I mean, we have automation, so basically a lot of the quests can be automated from their Discord, but there's also automations for loads of other stuff. But some of the manual stuff, they will mark it off on quests as well. But as you can see, there are loads and loads of quests being done, and this is just in the last 7 days as well. And again, of course, we can tell where people are actually coming from, not only through URLs, we can tell where the countries are, we can also kind of cross-reference them with other communities in Web3 about exactly where they're members of as well. So we can do partnerships events with those, we can reach out to them, and hopefully, again, really kind of like leverage everything that we're doing just to hopefully build communities as well. So like I started off by giving this talk, user journeys is really, really important. It's kind of like all about kind of making sure that you're building a narrative with people, and it really is a case of offering them something that they want. And again, I'll share that slide with you guys in a second. But again, here's just an example of reviews. Now, I promised I would show this with you, and this just shows how a big legacy brand like Michelin is getting into Web3 right now. We've been working with these guys recently. Michelin, how old would you say they are, Andy?
52 years.
There you go. That wasn't a quiz question, by the way. There is no Michelin t-shirt or something here, but God knows how wrong. But it's an old brand, isn't it? They're not even Web 2. They're just an old legacy brand. But they're moving into their Web3 strategy right now by basically using Zeely to kind of build these quests. And what's really exciting is they have these quests where they're trying to activate people all around the world to go around there and take photos of Michelin star restaurants, and they get XP for that. To take pictures of Michelin cars. If you're at the Le Mans race that was on like a couple of weeks ago, you upload some proof that you were there. And if you reach a certain amount of XP, you'll then get on their whitelist, and you'll also go into prize draws and raffles as well. So this is a really, really good use case about how Michelin, a classic brand, are engaging a community around Web3 as well. So like I said, I think we're going to see a lot more Web 2, this Web 2.5 thing actually happening now as well. So just to finish off, like I said before, please do think about user journey. It's so, so important for me, definitely, especially when I'm part of a community. Think about your brand. Is it unique? Does it reflect your brand as well? And always be thinking about community market fit. I think from my perspective, if you're just part of some wishy-washy community, I have no idea what it is, then you're going to fall out of that pretty quickly. But if you keep talking to your members, finding out what they want, it's super, super important as well. Two more things. Final thing is, if anybody is setting out on a community career, please never hesitate to give me a shout. I'm very, very passionate about this industry. I will always try to help people if they're just getting started. Very, very passionate, like I said, about just helping people in terms of getting into this, because I do love working in community myself. And again, for any kind of brands who are thinking about getting into kind of like community, again, give me a shout. Agencies, these sorts of things as well. So I'm always happy to chat as well. And you can reach me here on obviously Telegram, or give me a shout on LinkedIn. I did have a Twitter until I just kind of repurposed it for work a couple of weeks ago. So who knows where that's going to go. Cool. I think that's it. Thank you.